Three, two, one. Hey everyone, welcome to Mind Spark Monday. I'm Melissa. I'm here with some great educators. We're going to chop it up a little bit and talk about some of the things that are working in their classrooms, talk about some of their challenges. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Brooke. Brooke, can you let us know how long you've been teaching, what subjects you're currently teaching, and what population you teach? And if there's anything else you want to throw in there for us, please go ahead and do so.
Okay, this is my, thank you for having me first off. And this is my 6th year teaching. This year I'm teaching 4th grade, specifically just 4th grade special education in Washington, DC. I've been teaching SPED, mostly like high school. And then I went to gen ed, middle school, social studies. And now this is my first year with just 4th graders and like no other grades. And then to be special education on top of that. My population, I proudly work in Southeast Ward 8, Washington, D.C. And I will also rep, which I don't mind, I also work at the best school there, KIPP Honor Academy.
Big up to KIPP Honor Academy. And so how long have you been a special educator? Did you mention that? Like in total years?
School years 1, 2, 3. This is my first year going back to SPED from gen ed. I was in special education for 3 years, went to general education for 2, and then back in SPED now.
So that begs the question, at least for me. I'm a special educator of like 20 freaking years. And I have not necessarily dabbled a lot in general education, but what brought you back to special education?
The way the world works, it always brings you back. I think we've talked about that before, where you belong. And this is, I was in general education finishing my master's degree with a social studies concentration. So I had to teach social studies. And so I was kind of locked in that position for a few years. And then a position open for special education after I finished my master's, and I kind of had some freedom. So that is where I traveled.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about that. This is, and it's said all the time about like, oh, especially people in the humanities field, oh, it's my calling, it's my purpose. But I truly do believe a lot like you that it does require a special person to engage in this work. And it's challenging work, but extremely fulfilling and rewarding. But first and foremost, you gotta want to do it. And so it's got to be kind of like you're in your heart to do it. All right, thanks, Brooke. So we also have Abe McClear here with us. Hi, Abe. How are you today?
Hello. Thank you for having me here. My name is Abraham McClear. This is also my 6th year teaching. I started with Brooke so many years ago, and we actually we've been working in education and working with kids for the past 17 years. We started together at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Dover, Delaware. Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Dover, Delaware.
As counselors, yeah. I actually started even running my own site there. And then I just had a passion for education. I was a ward of the court until I was 18 years old. When I was young, I was kind of pushed off, like so many of our youth are, towards special education until they actually got me in there and tested and saw that that I had a brilliance factor about myself, that I really didn't want that. Yeah, I didn't want that to happen to other young children who might have been, issues or problems behaviorally in the classroom. I learned from that, and I wanted to affect an exact change in the world.
So that's
absolutely,
good
absolutely.
I didn't know that about you. So yeah, it's really something that kind of was instilled in you a long time ago.
Yeah, I think this was my calling. I actually got my degree in business and went into that field for a little bit. And by divine right and perfect timing, I ran back into Brooke. I did. And she said, hey, you should be teaching. And I know that's where you should be. Your passion lies. And I took the opportunity. And I got to interview in front of the illustrious Miss Melissa Boston right here for my first job. And it was a blessing, and I would never go back. I feel myself ascending on this path, and I feel like this is the right place to be. I am currently teaching in the great state, the Sunshine State of Florida. As many of you know, we have returned back to the classroom, and this will be my first week coming up.
Okay, so you've actually been, like everybody else, distance learning up until returning back, coming up this week. So tomorrow?
Yes. I will, yeah, tomorrow will be the first day that I head back into the building since last March. So it's, there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. You know, I understand where a lot of teachers are right now who have to go back into the building. So I definitely feel your pain. I feel your anxiety. I feel your stresses. But I know that we all, you know, working together, creating a community of teachers, we can all overcome.
Yeah. So is the plan to bring the teachers and the students back tomorrow, or is that like a phasing in process?
It's going to be a phasing in process. I'm in a charter school, so we have 6th through 12th. So the 10th and the 10th through 12th graders are coming back to tomorrow, and then they're going to subsequently phase in the rest of the grades all the way up into, I believe, mid-November.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
And then we're going to work on the students are going to be rotating. They're going to be at school one week and then at home the next week. So.
And have you been made aware of what, I guess, measures are going to be put in place? Is it going to be 6 feet separation in the classroom, masks and?
Yeah. It's tough because, you know, they've put things into place, but you know, we really don't have a grasp or a hold on what this disease is, this sickness. So, you know, our concerns like ventilation and things like that, they said they've taken care of, but it's like, I guess it's a wait and see sort of thing. But they're going to be, there's dividers, there's 6 feet apart. The students aren't going to be moving around. The teachers are going to be moving around. They have plans in place for that. But, you know, it's kind of a wait and see game right now as to how everything plays out.
Yeah, you know, when you just said that, I was thinking about, and we've had this discussion before with, you know, the districts, the larger districts aren't really able to like make that shift as easily. The shift in obviously like bringing kids back into brick and mortar buildings as quickly as some of the privates are, right? Or the schools that just have one campus to focus and worry about or to make safe. So it kind of makes sense in a way that being a smaller school, you're able to maybe, you know, focus on that building, like that HVAC system, like, you know, that whole filtration of the air and kind of the space. You have a less number of teachers and students to worry about and kind of put in these pods. So, I mean, I imagine, you know, following the CDC guidelines, of course, that your school will open as safely as possible, and know that, you know, we're rooting for you guys and thinking about you. And when I say that, I mean, like, if we do see success in models like this, then those models can be mimicked, you know, in other kind of like, you know, school environments.
Absolutely.
I think it's tough. It's tough for, you know, I have a high schooler as well as don't ask me, but a high schooler and a kindergartner. So it's, there, you know, it's like it's affecting both, you know, age ranges. The little one just can't wait to meet her teacher, you know, and meet her classmates in person. Where the high schooler, he's kind of like over it. He's like, okay, I'll take my chances. I just want to go back to school. You know, he just wants that kind of socialization and everything. But definitely want to keep up with you and see how that's going. It'll be interesting to see if we see any major spikes, if there will be an adjustment, but I'm hopeful that there isn't. So with that being said, you know, let's kind of, Brooke, let's go back to you. So can you talk to us about some of the challenges, you know, this whole distance learning thing? You know, what were some of, or still are some of the challenges? You're almost a quarter in, 9 weeks in, like the first week of November. So what are some of the things that you find to be most challenging with a distance learning piece?
So I think that I would preface with the fact that I've actually been teaching with computers for the last 5 years. So like I've already been doing things with computers like as an engagement strategy for special education as well as in social studies. So like the getting used to computer systems thing for me was not a challenge because I was already pretty accustomed to a lot of the most familiar ones. Something that I found though with this whole COVID situation, going into a new role as fourth grade special education where I'd never taught fourth graders like math and reading, and it was a new role, right? It's a new role, so I wasn't exactly, I guess the challenge that I faced was like not being in the school building means that you're not walking by people every day. You're not walking by all these brilliant minds with these brilliant ideas that have already done things that worked or done things that didn't work that can, you know, tell you very quickly, oh, well, this might work, or oh, that might work, or, you know, meetings after like the meeting's done, the Zoom call's over. So like kind of like any collaboration or on the fly collaboration or input from people that are also very smart was like really minimized this year compared to years past where especially last year was my first year of this school. I could get information so quickly and valid good information. So I really think that like a lack of collaboration time was one of the biggest challenges for me in like a new role.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that, so let me just ask you about that. So like, you know, so we understand like this all hit abruptly in March. And so we could see that like there really wasn't a plan. Like, first of all, we're all just worrying about survival and how this is being handled and just everything about like this illness. So it's understandable that things kind of like just pause, like to a degree, right? But I guess like I'm wondering, so then as school leaders, particularly for what you experienced, you know, are you seeing that your leaders are kind of shifting? So it's like that isolation factor and that lack of kind of team, you know, approach, or even like in time kind of feedback and dialogue. Were they realizing that that was absent and missing, and have they shifted and moved towards more, you know, kind of pushing of that still in that kind of community?
So I think that like at the beginning of the year, so let's like take last year out of the situation. That's what I try to do. We kind of just threw it against the wall, saw what sticked, and figured something else out, right?
Right.
It was difficult, right? So like coming into this year, we had a lot of weeks of you know, PD time and all this prep time. And my school, I was actually really happy with my school because they did everything through Zoom. So everything that we learned, we were able to pick up different, like, you know, Zoom techniques and Zoom like activities and things that you could also use through Zoom. And I know other teachers that I have seen or know or talked to like didn't have that. So I think that my administrators were like really proactive in that sense. But then, you know, we had like that first 2-3 weeks where we were just trying to see, is it going to work? Can the kids get on? Is everything, can they figure out a computer? And during that time, especially because I was in a new role and I was in a room with my kids in a small group by myself, like that's kind of like I have to remind myself every year. My mom told me once, which was like ingenious, like you can't expect a whole lot the first few weeks of school because everybody's, but like that doesn't mean that it's not like tough on you as a teacher, especially in this space where like not only can I like not necessarily expect my administrators to be able to do a whole lot in that time period, but also like I don't see other adults that often, except for like specific staff meetings that have an agenda, and then when it's over, it's over. To speak on like feedback in the moment, I'm just really lucky. So I know that I'm really lucky. I talk to a lot of teachers around the country, family, friends, everything. And I know that I'm lucky, but what my administrators do, like they come, my direct supervisor comes once a week, observes, and then immediately sends feedback that day without prompt. And then we have meetings set up once a week. Now, during that first 4 weeks when like I'm not supposed to be saying anything, but I couldn't not because I had to advocate for myself. I asked my direct supervisor, like, I need something else. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I felt very insecure in this new role and like what it was supposed to look like, especially at a school like KIPP. And she actually increased the time that I had with her. So she set up 2 other extra meetings, checkpoints throughout the week, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, instead of just Monday. So she was really responsive. And I feel like I was lucky, but I also feel like I had to advocate for myself because they don't know what's going on in my brain in this computer land, you know, so far away from the school. So I can't expect them to know that without being able to, like, you know, communicate that. And
that makes sense. And that's great that you get that feedback weekly. That's really important. Any other challenges that you wanted to specifically address?
One thing, just because there's like a tool that I've been using that I don't think a lot of people know about, and I asked you earlier if somebody had talked about it before, but I really I needed to be plugged a little bit more than what, because I didn't hear it so often. That's the Flipgrid. So I work with 4th graders and 4th graders that hadn't been on computers before. Well, to my knowledge, as much as we need to be on computers. And, you know, my kids have special needs, and some of it has to do with like how they might respond to a prompt or how they might answer. Well, when we're on Zoom, and it's very difficult to have a discussion. Not only with kids that like may not be as comfortable or confident to come off mute, but also because of like the digital divide. All our kids have computers, and all of our kids can get hotspots if they need it, but there is still lag time. Lag time is real. So it's very difficult to have a conversation or a discussion that you might have in the class, which I like to have discussions in my class, but I can't really hear what they're saying at any given moment because people might, it's a hot mess. I'm sure you guys have seen it. So Flipgrid, I use a lot in my class where they can answer all kinds of questions. Whether it's like something where it's like more like icebreaker, getting to know you type questions. I use it for read alouds. So like that way I can track their fluency and their decoding. I use it for independent reading logs where like back in the day, you see the memes that have like the independent reading logs, like this is when I first started to lie. Yeah. So like, I don't know if that's any different now than it was when I was in school in the 80s, but I do it where like they have to have a discussion about what they just read. So it kind of gives a little bit of accountability. Plus they can kind of, you know, kids want to be heard. Kids want their voices heard. So that way they can kind of talk about that. I've used it for a plethora of things. Anything that I might think that would be like a discussion that, you know, you really want kids to be able to talk about. I try to do a little Flipgrid where it's like so easy, user-friendly. The kids, like I try to get kids on Google Classroom the first few weeks, and literally I was like, hit the refresh button, top left, it's a circle with an arrow, and like I was ready to hit my head against the wall for a little bit of that time. But Flipgrid, I prefaced before that, I was like, guys, if it gets tough, we're gonna just work through it. We can do it. And I didn't have any issues. They quickly were able to, after a model, be able to navigate the site, upload their videos. They liked it because there's like different fun things you can do with it. And I just think that like people don't know about like how much you could use it and how easy it is to get it off the ground. So that's kind of how I combated that one. But I do want to say one more thing that I did to combat the first one with the lack of collaboration. This is another thing that I don't think teachers know as much. And I tell people all the time, Facebook teacher groups. If you join the right Facebook teacher groups, if you just search groups with like what you're looking for, 4th grade, virtual learning, special education, Flipgrid for educators, something like that, groups will come up and people answer your questions and they answer them quickly. And like, you don't have to feel bad about bothering your coworker friend every time you have a question because they can answer it.
Yeah, that's a good one. So you subscribe to a lot of the Facebook teacher groups?
Yeah, I feel like so old for saying that, but yes.
Are there specific ones that you like? I'm just wondering.
I just put in usually, because I've been actually using teacher Facebook groups for a while. So like I have to like, you know how you have to like unfollow groups because like it'd be all teachers, right?
Yeah.
And so like when I stopped teaching social studies, I kind of got out of those social studies groups.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've done like a 4th grade group, virtual learning, distant learning. Like if you just put in those keywords, and then it's always good to find the ones that have a lot of members or a lot of posts a day, because that means there's a lot of people that are going to answer your question.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So I would just say if you just search in Facebook groups, the same way that you would search for a person you're stalking, you would just put the Facebook group up there, then groups, and then it'll come up.
Right. Okay, that's good. How many students do you have in your classroom?
My caseload is of 8 students. So whether they're in my classroom or pushed into their general education classroom for some subjects. So my high is 8. Like one of my math class, literacy is 8, and math is 6.
Okay. And so receiving special education services with an IEP, and it varies kind of the number of hours that they're getting. So their disability kind of code it varies.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. So I've got mostly SLD. I've got 2, I think, OHI, 1 autism spectrum disorder, and that's it. They're mostly all like I think like 80% SLD. And then the 2 I think are OHI ADHD.
Okay. And so Flipgrid is one of the ones that your premier go-to. Is there another one that you want to kind of highlight for the special education folks?
Oh, goodness gracious. I like Nearpod. That's not just special education, but I also, so like, we got over that hump. So it's kind of been like a roller coaster this last 9 weeks of like what works and what doesn't work. And like, I kind of like saw like a little bit of a decrease in like engagement. Like some kids were coming late, not doing the independent work that they were maybe doing at the beginning of the year at the same rate. Mm-hmm. So I thought about like what I did in the classroom that worked, because this was new. I'd like tell my teacher, you guys have been in my classroom. Kids usually are engaged in my classroom. Yeah. So I went back to a long time ago when I first started teaching with Mr. McClear, and Ms. Boston was our principal, and I used these tickets, and I use them with high schools to reinforce positive behaviors. And this is just another plug. I did it with high schoolers. It's not just for 4th graders and little elementary school kids. I hear that all the time, and I did it with high schoolers and was very successful there with it as well. Mm-hmm. Now I'm doing it with 4th grade, but of course we can't give tickets, so I'm utilizing Class Dojo, which is also another free, very user-friendly site. Mm-hmm. Put in the behaviors that I want for positives, put in the behaviors that I want for negatives, negative behaviors that you want to extinguish. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily assign a point value to the negatives, but I want to be able to document it. Yeah. Because we're virtual, and I don't want paper. I mean, usually I have Post-its everywhere, but now I'm like kind of keeping it central in this Class Dojo. The parents can communicate through it. I just started it 2 weeks ago, and the kids are geeked already.
They love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like all the kids come to class on time. I think we do Lexia as a reading intervention, which is like super proven. Like the more time they're on Lexia, the more progress they get in reading. So. And since my kids like average 2-3 grade levels behind in grade level reading, they're doubling their goals, like tripling their goals, just because it doesn't bother me what the motivation is. Like if the motivation is to get the points to try to get a prize, whether it's free or not free, I'm okay with it because it means that they're working hard. Like when I was a kid, I did chores for money. Right. Like, so what is personally, I'm okay with external motivators to get a desired behavior. Class Dojo, though, we already have like Dean's List, which some people have like school-wide systems that usually are attached to like a school store. Yeah. Well, school stores don't happen virtual. Well, at least for us, they don't. Right. Or they hadn't yet.
They're not yet, right.
And so I just was like, for my class, I needed to do something because this whole like not coming to class on time and not doing your work was not working for me.
Got it.
And it really, 2 weeks, and I asked my friend, I was like, don't I seem much nicer the past 2 weeks? Because I'm a lot less stressed because they're doing everything I ask. So Class Dojo, free, user-friendly.
Okay, so Flipgrid, Nearpod, Class Dojo, got it. All right, Mr. McClear, talk to us about some of the things that maybe you're challenged with or have been. I know you're about to shift, so I'm sure you're like kind of in the middle here. You're going to probably have different challenges, but and then talk about like how you've been able to take those challenges and some successes that have come out of that particular challenge or challenges.
Absolutely, absolutely. I try to learn something new every day about the online world. I'm actually learning something now that I do call Brooke too much, and I need to sign up for some of those Facebook groups because I blow her phone up. She is one of my most knowledgeable friends, not even just teacher friends. So I lean on her through these hard times. So sorry, Brooke, I will sign up for some of those Facebook groups that we're talking about now. But for me, there are a few challenges that I've been facing. I'm really big on relationship building with my students. I love to let them see my personality and let my personality shine through so that the students know that my area is a safe place for them. So proximity, not having that, over the shoulder to help them, spending, 20 minutes teaching a kid how to copy and paste could be tough. Something I could do within a couple minutes in person. Another thing is advocacy, teaching the kids how to, I'm working with sixth graders. I don't think I said this yet. I work with sixth graders and eighth graders. So my sixth grade babies who are coming in, they're entering into middle school for the first time, and they're entering into middle school in a virtual, world. So it's everything is new. And I tell them every day that it's not just new for you, it's new for everyone. So grace and mercy will be shown on you from me. But just teaching them how to advocate, something that I would model in person with them, I'm having to do in breakout rooms so they can really learn how to speak up for themselves and how to really get the desired results they want from their teachers. Another thing that I'm having challenges with is the modalities of learning. We have our visual, we have our auditory, we have our kinesthetic, and we have our tactile learners. So the tactile learners, just finding different programs where they can, blossom and they can show their talents. Jamboard is one of the things that, lets them to draw, trace things. With my, I know we don't have the use of manipulatives online, obviously. So, it's a challenge with that. My kinesthetic learners doing gallery walks, virtual gallery walks, getting them to move. Most of my kids are SLD. I have a few OHI. So just getting them to be able to move, find things, little scavenger hunts, just to keep it lively and fun and the movement flowing throughout the classes. I do 3 classes of co-teaching. We split our ELA into reading and writing classes. And then I have a math class that I co-teach in, and then I do support facilitation and the other subjects. So my day is pretty busy. Time management for myself has been something that is tougher. I thought it'd be easier, being home, but being in so many spaces,
Yeah.
and making sure that everything is working properly has been a challenge. Some of the programs I use for my kids, honestly, my kids, they didn't have the access, like Brooke said, the digital divide, right? They didn't have the access. They're really good with cell phones, but computers not so much. So helping them to learn how to use a computer, they're novices now, but I feel like in a year from now they're going to call me a noob because that's how that's how our students grow, the young mind. But I use typing.com. A great way I do it is sort of do nows, warm up activities, spend 5 minutes. I set up an account, it links directly to their Google Classroom, so their grades can import anything I want to import. And I do it probably 1 or 2 times a week. I've seen vast improvements on my scholars. Their writing class is improved. And what else I use? I use No Red Ink is another program that I use for the writing class. NoRedInk.com.
No red ink. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, NoRedInk.com. It's really cool. It lets the students kind of pick their favorite TV shows, and then it uses like sort of a fanboy model to create questions based on their TV shows, and just teaches them about grammar. And it's really, really, really cool program. I do breakout rooms with my kids to supplement what they're learning in the gen ed classes. So those are really the programs. Of course, I use, Brooke put me on to Flipgrid. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Throw it another plug. But we utilize Google Classroom. Oh,
Yeah.
another thing I do is Google Slides. If you create a program in the Google Slides or a slide deck, and you have the students make a copy and go into edit mode, then they can manipulate things and you can go in and check it. So it's a really cool and free way to be creative. Bitmoji classrooms, I'm sure you guys have seen those a lot.
Yeah.
Just making it fun, making it engaging, keeping the interest, and really showing the kids who I am through this online platform is what I've been doing, and really giving them some tools to be successful.
That's awesome. One of the things that you'd mentioned, well, it made me think of a couple things. So first and foremost, with that age group that you're working with, how really they don't learn, like back in the day, at least when I was in school, you had like keyboarding class,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of these kids do not know how to properly type on the computer or laptop, Chromebook. And that just has been pretty fascinating to me. The middle schoolers and high schoolers, since they've removed that from the curriculum, we're seeing like this kind of like two finger or this made up kind of typing approach. And so that, I don't know, that just, I don't know if you've noticed that or have seen that or heard kids talking about that, but I find that very fascinating, and probably is somewhat contributes to some of the like lack of speed or maybe even going in depth, right, with your writing and with your content. So that's an interesting piece. The other thing was, in talking about Google Classroom and kind of working on one document at a time, that really is a way in live time to kind of see what kids are, you know, thinking and kind of putting down, you know, what their thoughts are. Because I think with the middle school and high school age group, there's a lot that they want to say. It's just they don't want to say it this way, right? It's like, I don't want to be my box highlighted and everybody listens to me talk and looks at me, right? Like in an inconspicuous way, because they're so self-conscious at this age. It's like we have to figure out ways to understand what they know, you know, through various different means. So I think doing the Google slide where they're able to get in there and add something of value or just something at all to the discussion is definitely on point. You gave some two great, I've never heard of typing.com or noredink.com. So that's definitely something I'm going to look into. Brooke, I have to say, when Mr. McClear was talking, I seen you signing for, you know, like, yes, I agree. And it made me think, so in elementary school, there's a lot of that going on, the agree symbol, like, you know, ways to communicate, right? What's that one? I don't know if I know that one.
Build upon.
Build upon. Okay,
Nice.
see, like, there's all
Nice.
these
I
cool
like that.
ways. Are you utilizing any of those ways, Abe, with the middle school kids? Like, I know it's such a weird, you know, age group when you start getting in middle school and then high school, but are you guys encouraging participation in ways other than like what you just mentioned? Are there signs? Are there different approaches?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We use signs. I do thumbs up, thumbs to the side, and thumbs down,
Okay.
really for my CFUs to check in for understanding. I feel like that with my population of kids, that really works the best. It took little explanation, and they, you know, I just look across the screens and I see this the sideways thumb. So I pause right there, and then I go back and try to remodel what I did before. But yeah, definitely. I utilize the chat feature, but it's hard sometimes with, you know, if you're presenting, but the thumbs really work. Also the emojis that you have on the side with the Zoom. But honestly, the thumbs up, thumbs down, and thumbs to the side really works the best for me.
Yeah. Last question, and then we're gonna unfortunately finish up. A half an hour went so quickly with you guys. But do you all do like primarily synchronous, or is it a mixture of asynchronous and synchronous? Like, if you had to put a percentage on what you do, Brooke, what would you say your synchronous is versus your asynchronous?
I would say, I was thinking you were asking and then I lost it. Probably about like 70 synchronous and 30 asynchronous. For my kids, I don't do, a lot of other teachers are doing like assignments asynchronously. But I'm actually just having them on those systems asynchronously. So Lexia for reading, because I mean, it's it teaches them how to read. Like
it's proven.
And they like it. So
Right.
I don't need any extra assignment, any little, like I like some little, you know, razzle dazzle, but I don't need that for asynchronous. And then I just track them, all their asynchronous work, and then show them that I'm tracking it, and then show their parents that I'm tracking it, and
Right.
then it gets, you know, their goals are met. So
got it. That's really a good point. Goals on those IEPs is important. What about you, Abe? As far as like, you know, synchronous versus asynchronous, what would you say your percentage is?
Pretty similar. I feel like to Brooke. I would say more probably 60-40 asynchronous work. I mean synchronous work to
Synchronous,
asynchronous
right.
work. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But pretty similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just tough because we knew for a while that we're going to be going back into the classroom, so we've been kind of like moving around a little bit, some parts, but
yeah, trying to figure out what works. Yeah, I find that with the high schoolers, definitely, you know, in college, I taught a course over the summer, and you know, after 2 hours straight of this content, like, you know, we kind of need to move to doing some things, you know, off camera, off, you know, this distance kind of approach. But I find that the older ones, they enjoy that more. Like they're able to kind of take the assignment and kind of, you know, go a little deeper with it, or just do what they're supposed to do and turn it in. I think they're kind of like, you know, that approach for them seems to be more beneficial, and especially for their developmental level as well. So, but with the little ones, it's, you know, you really have to kind of have them in front of you and do all that engaging and fun stuff, because what you rely on after that is somebody helping them. And so you always can't get a gauge on what they know and what they don't know. Right? Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm so happy to have you here. You know, there are people that I've come across in my time and in my time in this field and my career, and I'm fortunate to like work in where I'm passionate. Like work for me, although if I told somebody else a lot like you, they'd think I was crazy. But my day, I don't complain about my work, even though it's easy to complain about some of the things that happened, or to just be like, hey, guess what, this happened today. It really was just like, this is my work. And it never felt like work to me. It always felt good to go and to do it. And I feel the same about you all, right? I feel like you're just as equally as committed and passionate. And that shines through, you know, even to this day. So there are people that I come across, you know, in my career that just will always be special to me, that hands down, I will always, you know, work with, I will stand behind, like I can, you know, I affirm them. I know, yes, they are the real deal. And you two are definitely the real deal. So I really want to thank you for sharing like all of your knowledge today. For those of you who don't know about the work that MindWorks does, please check us out at www.mindworkscolab.org. Also, we have the Mind Hive, and that is an online platform, a community of special educators, a lot like what Brooke was referring to on the Facebook groups, that really put together folks all over the country who are doing this work. People who, you know, want to connect with others who are doing the work, sharing resources, sharing their challenges. So check us out also on the Mind Hive as well. But don't forget, every Monday we're here with a new set of folks to share their skill set with. And I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye and good night to everybody. Have a great Monday evening. We'll see you next time.
Go vote.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for this opportunity.